Okie dokie, back on the road. Had to make some phone calls there. Picked up my load. One crate turned into two. It looks like a basket full of motor mounts, as far as I can tell. And they're just poured into a big metal basket. And the load weighs a little over 1,200 pounds, which is way more than they told me this was going to be. But when you're expediting, if you pick up a load that's not what's on your phone or what's on the app, you need to call and confirm, because they'll flip out. They'll think you have the wrong thing, or something's like, it is off by a pound. This was way off, so I had to make a few phone calls. But essentially, it was a seamless pickup. They were real fast there, and I like that. But I'm following this for another 18 miles, and again, I like farmland. I like farm country. The speed limit is 55, and I'm going exactly 55 because it's more fuel efficient. Noticing an abundance of barns around here painted white, which is kind of unusual. Traditionally, they paint all their barns red, and these are white. That one gets cleaned up. This has me in the next 15 minutes or so. I'll be merging onto 80 for a short distance and turning on 69, I believe, south. And then it's down to Kentucky from there. I'm not 100% certain where this wind is coming from. I know it's going to hurt me or help me. So I'm hoping it's going to help because it's a little breezy today. I tried to look into, last time I did this, I was playing some music, and now I'm finding out that you can't play music unless it's YouTube approved / authorized. If it's yours, you can play it, but if it's somebody else, you can't. So then you have to go on the YouTube Studio and find the music you're allowed to play. And I've been all over YouTube Studio, and I cannot figure out where that section is. And if I did, I wouldn't know how to play it. So that's another, another dilemma I have to deal with. So I'll have to figure that one out, which kind of sucks. The first time I ever bumped into the music problem is when the wife and I, in 22, we were in Chicago, Cleveland, same difference. We were in Cleveland, and the USS Cod is a World War II submarine, and we were touring, and we were the only people on board. And we were walking around filming, and somewhere in the background they were playing World War II big band music, which is my personal favorite. And they were playing it in the background. And I got a notice from YouTube that says, hey, you can't play that. And I'm like, I don't even know where it's coming from. Yeah, somebody said the roads are bad. Well, this is a two-lane country road, and it's asphalt, and you can see where they do repairs to it. And I imagine the roads up here are harsh in the wintertime because of snow and whatnot. But they're relatively smooth. The speed limit is 55, which makes this kind of a relaxing drive. Okay, I stand corrected. I thought I was going to be getting on 80 up here. Now it's showing me going under or over it, bypassing it. Like I said, my GPS and Waze on my phone are both programmed to avoid toll roads as much as humanly possible at a protest. But it looks like I get to miss the toll road completely, which is totally cool. When you're involved in a nickel and dime industry, you need to pay attention to those things. Look at these telephone poles. I don't know if you can tell, but they're old school wooden ones, the kind you really don't see as much anymore. They don't even appear to be treated. And they have the old school insulators. They probably haven't made in 60 years, and they still have them on there, which is kind of fun to see. Growing up in Colorado in the 70s and 80s, you could go out in the middle of nowhere and you could find those insulators. I have a half a dozen of them in my house back in Texas. But I haven't seen them in use since back then, and here's a line of telephone poles that have them. which is kind of entertaining for me. But then again, I'm easy to entertain. Looks like we're running parallel to 80. We're going to cross it here in a second. There's a sign back there that said, they point an arrow and it says the town of fill in the blank is 5 miles or 8 miles or whatever. That's at 1.5 miles. I don't think I've ever seen the half part before. Biggest danger of driving on country roads is farm equipment. It's only going, I don't know, how fast is a tractor towing a, oh, obviously that's fancy, the building the right, because they're going like 20 miles an hour. So you have to judge the fact that you're doing 55, 60 and they're barely moving. And at night that can get dangerous, especially if they're not properly lit. And my flying job in the Gulf of Mexico, I spent a tremendous amount of time driving at night in southern Louisiana and through the swamps. And they do sugar cane in that part of the world. And the sugar cane from the air almost looks like corn, real tall corn. So they would have bad storms that roll through and it would all lay flat like it's been destroyed by the storm. And then you fly over the next day and it's all standing upright again. So the stuff was very resilient. But when they harvest it, I guess they harvest it 24 hours a day until it's done. And they have these trucks with these big trailers that are like not diamond plate, but that metal that's got the holes in it you can't quite stick your fingers through, real tight mesh. And they would pour the sugar cane into these trailers and tow it to wherever, doing whatever it is they do to it. And sometimes they would have a little red taillight on the trailer, but more times than not they didn't. So you'd be cruising down the 2-lane road like this, speed them at 65, 70, and all of a sudden in your headlights appears a black mass going 20 miles an hour down the road. And I dodged a car accident on more occasions than I care to remember because of that. It scared the crap out of me, and I don't know why these guys just drive around with no lights on in the middle of the night on the interstate at sub-interstate speeds. Cool, rolling hills. Well, I'm going the speed limit. I got some trucks behind me getting anxious, but dude, we're going over blind hills and corners, so chillax. Somebody just asked, how fast can your car go? Well, this isn't a car. It's a Ford Transit 250, and I've never pushed this one beyond 75. But this has the same layout and power plant of my last van, and that van would do 98 if you laid on it. But this vehicle really isn't designed for that. It's got all the power in the world. I believe this setup is 310 horse and 410 pounds of torque. So it's got all the power in the world, but it's an aerodynamic brick. And stability-wise, it's probably not really a good idea to push one hard. And it says, are you happy or married? Yeah, that was it says, is it fun to drive? Yes, it's like driving a car. I was looking at buying this or buying the Dodge van. I can't remember what they're called anymore. Whoa, red light. Whatever the Dodge van was called. And the seating position in the Dodge van is like driving a bus. the steering wheel is like down between your knees coming up the steering column, and it's like a bus drive. Now for someone who's really tall like myself, it's really awkward because I have to reach way down to get to the steering wheel. Real awkward. I mean, it was doable, but long term it probably would have been horrible. And there's a question that says, are you happy or are you married? That is from a skit from the Three Stooges, where he's a census taker, and Mo literally asked that question when he knocked on somebody's doors, and that was from the 1930s. And he said it so matter-of-factly that I think it kind of went over most people's heads. Okie dokie. And then we're back up to speed. Yeah, we just passed 80, which is cool. For that little chunk of Interstate 80 I would have had to have gotten on would have cost me toll money, and I didn't want to spend it. This one says, how is life treating you? I'm good. I'm good. I am married to the most awesome woman in the world, and if I say that, she doesn't beat me as much. Our kids are grown and gone. We have a townhouse. We're at that point in our life where we travel. We don't buy stuff. When you're younger, you want to acquire things. We're at the point where we don't want things. We want to do stuff. So that's where we're at, and we're both happy for it. I come out here and do this job. Expediting, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's essentially truck driving in a box van. It's a lot easier. There's a lot less rules, regulations. You don't mess with DOT. It's just a job that's easy to get in and out of. You can either own your own van or drive somebody else's. It just depends. Just like truck driving. And I'm happily married. My wife and I are both getting ready to bounce off 57 years old, so we're eyeballing retirement here in the not distant future. So this is just holding down the fort for now. And I get to drive around the country and do this, like this road right here. I'm enjoying just the scenery of this road. And I think most shippers and receivers are dealing with people who are either neutral or pissed off at life or just angry in general. So when I go in and talk to a shipper or receiver, I'm in a good mood. I crack a joke. I have something fun to say. I try to bring the level up, and people respond positively to that. And I have a lot of fun with the people I interact with, and I enjoy meeting them because across the board, no matter their background, their age, where they're from, it's like everybody has been friendly in this business with one exception. I met one guy who thought he was a guard at a plant, and this guy thought he was important. I think he thought he was like a CIA agent working the gate in a plant, and he was let's call him a donkey hole. The guy was just, and I came back to that same plant. That's the first time I expedited years ago. I came back to the same time looking around, and I asked the guy behind the counter about this little dude. He goes, oh yeah, he was famous, and they fired him. He was just wrong guy for the job, wrong personality for the job. But the guy had been gone for a while, and everybody knew him. He was like famous. But I am happy. I'm living a good life. The wife and I are living a good life. Like I said, we got another fun trip scheduled for 2 weeks from now, and then in August we're going to do one back out here to let her absorb some of this. I'm kind of new at this live streaming stuff, and to be honest, I haven't watched a lot of other people's. I just like to show the terrain, and I babble because I can't dance and I can't sing. And I'm just watching stuff scroll across the bottom of the screen. It looks like people are talking to each other at this point. That's interesting. Looking at all these barns, and you have old cars that somebody put in the barn, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they forget about fine. That's the thing. And the video I made a few days ago about that car in my cousin's barn was my uncle's Thunderbird. The wife texted me. This is 79 Thunderbird, which is not a collectible car, but the car is what's called a survivor class, which means it's all there, it's all original, it hasn't been reworked, and it's in really good shape. And people sometimes have those. They buy them, clean them up, and they just leave them alone, just because it's at this point, a 46-year-old car that basically looks new, even though it's not a desirable car. Well, there was a guy out here in Ohio somewhere, and Grandma died, and there was a barn find. And they got in the barn, and covered in slime was a white 1964 and a half Mustang, 6-cylinder, nothing to write home about, just a regular car. He did a serial number check on it, and it turns out it was production number 2. Number 1 being in the Ford Museum, which was a little stunning. So he secured the car and then let the cat out of the bag about it. I don't know what happened to it, but it was worth, just as it was, the car was worth a tremendous amount of money for its collectability. Which brings me to a topic of another guy I used to work with. Oh geez, been coming up on 25 years ago. He was helping a guy move up to the panhandle of Texas. And up there used to be very wet, and they grew crop in the 1930s. The jet stream, I guess, kind of moved, so they had to tap into the aquifer. They had to run pumps and get water out of the ground because the rain wasn't coming out of the sky anymore. And then eventually the farming up there kind of fizzled out. And a guy, he was helping a guy move to a big piece of real estate he bought up there that was very large and very inexpensive. And it had an old well that was totally dried up with a windmill that was out of service. And he was just walking around the property, and he looks down in the well, there's a ladder to get in it, because it's like 6 feet in diameter. It's not that deep. And at the bottom of the well, there was a shelf with some piping on it, and he was looking at an engine, and he wandered down into the well, and there was a little tiny, when I say tiny, I mean like 14 inches tall, V-twin motor with a Harley-Davidson symbol on it, which he thought was kind of cool. And he climbs back out, and he goes, hey, there's a little motor down there in the well. You're going to get that running? He goes, no, the well's dead. I'm going to bury it. And he goes, well, can I have the motor? He's like, it's yours. So he got down there with some tools, rusty, and got this motor out. Took the motor, cleaned it up, didn't brush it, but wiped it off, and it was rusty, but it was a tiny Harley-Davidson engine. He thought it was kind of cool. And he did a serial number check and kind of hit a brick wall. So then he finally contacted Harley-Davidson. He said, oh, look on the left there. Look at that. Caboose. You'll see that very often. He contacted Harley-Davidson, and he said, I'm looking for some history. What is this? And he gave him the serial number, and the text response from Harley was, big bold letters, do you have this in your possession? He's like, yeah, but what is it? And they said, we want it. Okay, what is it? It turns out in the 1930s, Harley-Davidson had a very small run of well pumps, cute little V engine. They only made a few hundred of them for the need after the climate kind of changed in that area. And they did not have a single example of one left. They didn't have one in their museum. They didn't have one on hand. All they had were blueprints. And it turns out that they ran for X amount of years, and they either wore out, got buried, or were thrown in the scrap heaps during World War II. And this guy had the only one known to exist, and he sold it rusty, non-functioning, as is. Harley-Davidson gave him, I think he said $13,000. Now it's 20 or 25 years ago. It's a motor. So if you're ever poking around and you find something that's old and mechanical or car, a piece of machinery, these things have value. I know a guy that found a coffee grinder, which looks like a set of wheels with a little box under it. It was a giant flywheel for a coffee grinder. He cleaned it up and sold it. Somebody sold for $1 jillion. It was really nice. In front of us, that's a Cadillac convertible. I don't think I've seen one of those in a long time. Okay, we're back into Little Town. There's my turn. All right, we're driving through another little town, and then we're going to hit 69 and start blasting. Like I said, I'm watching the questions on the bottom of the screen. Does anybody have any question about anything going on? Advice from an old fat guy? You want to know anything about helicopters? World War II? My knowledge of exotic dancing is a little weak. During COVID, I did put out I sent an email to everybody I knew, everybody on my list, and I said that due to these trying economic times, I've taken a series of naked photos of myself, and for $5.99 a month, I won't send them to you. Made some pretty good money off of that. That was cool. Ooh, right in the middle of town, there's a monument. Right there in front of us, real tall, with looks like somebody holding a flag or something. I don't know what that is. I love these old buildings. That is a female holding something like a flagpole in one hand, and let's call it a submarine sandwich in the other. I don't know what that is. And at the base, there's soldiers from different wars. Okay, this is going to be tricky. God, what a cool looking little town. Oh, right there in the corner, right there's an old school movie theater. We're going to stop right in the middle of the road, really? That struck you as being a good idea. Okay. Yeah, that's a real operational movie theater. Wow. I love towns like this. So don't ask me what it's called. Angola? Yeah, I think it says Angola. Oh yeah, all these old brick buildings, they've repurposed and cleaned up. Manicures. Yes, Angola, Ohio. Nice place. Like I said, if anybody has a topic of discussion, wow, that was loud. If anybody has a topic of discussion, please text it in. Trees with some shade. Digging it. I have a generator in here for an air conditioner that doesn't really work. The air conditioner doesn't work with a crap in here, but I keep a gas can. I have a 1 gallon gas can on board, which I have given away more times than I can count, and it's usually to somebody on a motorcycle in the middle of nowhere. It says, how many places have you visited? Oh, God. I expedited temporarily back when COVID kicked off. I was flying the helicopter tours up in Grand Canyon West Airport, and at the time, 75% of our passengers were from mainland China, so when COVID hit, that just died. Everything just shut down. So I got into expediting back then, and I ended up putting 180,000 miles on a van in 15 months. And most of the driving we do is on the Northeast. This is where all the manufacturing comes from. So all over the northeast part of the country and up and down the East Coast is pretty common, but the northern half of the East Coast. Kind of the Carolinas is usually the cutoff for that, but I've been to every one of the states up here. I stepped just across the border into Maine one time when I got up in there. I had a load that took me through New York City in this 9.5 foot tall van where the bridges are all 9 feet tall with big signs that say you can't drive anything other than a passenger car on it, and almost got myself into a couple of jams up there. I've been in Michigan, Lower and Upper Peninsula, over in Illinois, Chicago, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota. I dropped a load up there, and the North Dakota run was fun because it was in August, and down in Texas it was 10 billion degrees with 4,000% humidity, and I picked up a load and shot straight up I-35 to North Dakota, and I got out of my van one morning. It was bone dry and 41 degrees, and I'm standing there in my boxer shorts and dancing. It was so wonderful. I've done a bunch of loads to Texas in the past. I've only done 2 recently, but when I did it before, there was all kinds of cargo going out of Laredo. That was a huge destination there for the longest. And I got one load that took me to Oregon, of all places. Klamath Falls, Oregon, and then I got stuck there for 3 days, and then they gave me a load from Klamath Falls to Central Florida, which was 2,700 miles back. And since I got back into expediting here in March, I've done the biggest load, the longest load I've taken was Niagara Falls, and it was from a plant that was right on the water, and like across the pond right there was Canada. So we were right on the water, and I picked up what was called a carbon gasket. And it was a plant where everything in the plant was black. All the machinery, the floor, it was like dust. It was like black dust everywhere. And they gave me this little skinny pallet that had like a 48-inch carbon gasket. For what purpose, I have no idea, but it was delicate enough that they don't want to ship it traditionally. So I went Niagara Falls to Los Angeles with that, which was one of the best paying loads I ever ran. That I enjoyed. And since coming back in, I've also done a couple of Texas runs that I like, but most of the expediting is up here. I missed out on a load yesterday because I got a Utica, New York to Toledo run, which is okay. But right after I got it, a dispatcher I work with found a Niagara Falls, probably the same company, to Salt Lake City. Real hard to get out of Salt Lake City, but it would have been a great drive. A very enjoyable drive to go up there. But this job hangs around the Northeast. If you do this long enough, you start recognizing the roads, the rest areas. You start hitting the same gas stations. You start seeing the same stuff over and over and over again. You get kind of used to it. All right, getting on the highway here. This is speeding out here. In this van, this is a Transit 250 with a 3.5 turbo engine. These come in a low, medium, and high roof. This is the medium roof. And they come in a regular and a long bed. I got a long bed. So I have the medium long. And the last van I had was the tall, extended long. And just from aerodynamics, this van gets between 21 and 23 miles per gallon, depending. And my last van got 16 or 17. So the operational cost of this is a lot better. And having a big van is great, but you don't really use all that space very often. Not enough to justify having it. So we are now on 69 South, and I am heading, if my next turn is 146 miles from here, geez. And a rest area coming up, which I don't actually need to stop at. But maybe I will to fill my water bottles. All right, this has been going a half an hour. Thanks for tuning in. I know some people can't get out and travel or don't have the ability or don't want to, but they want to see what's going on. And I enjoy shooting a video going down the road just to see something you haven't seen before. But I'll catch up with you guys later. Take care.